and gentlemen, we are gathered here.
We're getting married.
To bid farewell to Maree. I guess I was going to reflect a little bit on where we came from and how we got here, because it's kind of interesting. I've had the privilege of being involved in one way or another with not just research but also ethics for several decades. And I remember the days when ethics consisted of filling in a 2-page application form, sitting down with a small group of guys and saying, you know, this is what I want to do, and they'd say, that looks good, fine. And this kind of grew out of the NHMRC's original statement on what they called human experimentation, which has a long kind of interesting pedigree of its own. And then in about the mid-1990s, I was fortunate to be pushed into sitting on the Health Ethics Committee of the NHMRC, where Don Chalmers organised for us to revise the national statement. And that was when the sea change began, from researchers acting as individuals within individual institutions, operating under their own independent guidelines, to an atmosphere of cooperation, collaboration, and standardisation of processes, harmonisation. Suddenly, ethics committees were allowed to talk to each other, compare notes. Researchers were encouraged to talk to ethics committees, and then in 2007, the national statement was revised, and suddenly the concept of research governance entered the picture. And up until then, sitting on the Research Ethics Committee, we did everything. We did ethics, we did governance, we did law, legal stuff, we did the whole lot. And it was all very haphazard in a way. But then this distinction between ethics and governance suddenly grabbed everybody's attention. And we started developing the concept of having a separate process for doing research governance and research ethics. And at the same time, we started talking with people in other areas within the health department. I know that somewhere in the background there is Michael Frommer, who I remember clearly sitting in Stephen Lee's office with Michael Frommer and Greg Stewart, plotting the creation of an ethics branch at the health department. And here we have James Cocaine representing the ministry. He's the product of that meeting. And at about that time, we decided, well, we needed to have a designated research governance officer. And who better to do this job than...
No, Leslie was initially. She was both ethics officer and governance officer.
You know, but that's a very good work. Let's be honest about it.
And Leslie reminded me that, because we interviewed Maree, I think in 2005, was it? End of 2004. So it was just before all this came in. And I'm reminded by Leslie that in the interview, Maree said, I'm a workhorse. and if you appoint me, I won't let you down. And true to her word, It's exactly what she did. And that certainly eased the burden on Leslie and me and the other people within the research office. So it's been tremendously valuable. And you know, I mean, the research enterprise is an activity with many moving parts. Each part is essential. Each part needs to be a cog in a bigger wheel, and there has to be somebody to oil the cogs and grease the wheels. And eventually it became clear that that's actually the job of the institution, you know, to provide the resources and the support. And I'm sorry that Teresa isn't here, I don't think, but she's been tremendously supportive in keeping, you know, helping the enterprise keep doing what we're doing. And so now it's sort of become a shared responsibility across the whole system.